This series is about my sixth Ford Ranger. I've owned 6 of them over the years, and they were all the same. Long box, V6, fleet. The fleet Rangers never had all the bells and whistles. It was just a truck. That was all I wanted. My first Ranger was a 1984. Then I got an 87. Then an 89. Then a 93. And finally a 2007. This is an image of my 2007 Ford Ranger one day before it was sold with 194,000 miles. And here it is setting next to the new Ranger, the 2022. It was special ordered as a super cab, 6-foot 1-inch box, vinyl floor, cloth seats, mud flaps, and the rear seat delete.
Now, I always found it interesting that you could not buy a Stealth Edition Ford pickup. You can get an Expedition, you can get a Mustang, but you can't get a Ford pickup Stealth. Now, I'm not really interested in the performance part of the Stealth. I spent close to 30 years in a 140 horse Ranger. So with 270 on tap with the 2022, I'm happy with it. So I decided I was going to just look at appearance. This is a 9-step process that I spent over a year working on to get my Stealth Ranger. Is having some kind of a rhubarb on the front to take care of deer and anything else that gets in your way. And I chose the ranch hand because it matches the styling of the truck and kind of flows. And then I've got the grill across the front with the intrusion bars right here. Is doing something about that giant unprotected hole in the front of the Ranger grill where you have access to the radiator. That was a mistake I think that Ford made, having that all open. So I decided to go with a Putco grill insert. So here's a tip on putting in that Putco grill insert. If you have a Ranger that doesn't have the parking sensors and you've got stuff on the front of your truck, like I do, you really don't want to take that bumper off. So what I did was I undid the bottom bolts to the license plate, pushed it up and got it out of the way, slid the grill in on the right as far as I could go, then brought it over on the left and got it in right behind that fake plastic piece as far as it would go. Then you can slide the right hand side into place, then align the tabs, put the license plate bracket back on, tighten it down part way, bend or just kind of warp the grill back. This is assuming that you cleaned in under like you're supposed to with alcohol. Then you take that little accelerator pad, put it on the underside where the two stickum pieces of double stick tape are. Then reach in, pull the red cover off the double stick tape, pull the grill forward and up until it catches. And you'll know you've got it right when you can see the little Putco emblem. Is either purchasing the overpriced blacked out Ranger emblem or get a can of black Plastidip, tape off the area, give it 3 or 4 coats, and there you go. There's your Stealth Ranger XL emblem. is replacing the OEM incandescent reflectors with the Delumina LEDs. I chose those because they're only half the price of the big name brand. The left side goes on fine. The right side, like everybody said, you've got to force it on. It isn't molded just right, but with a little persuasion, it does snap in. So what does that cheaper imitation light look like over the factory? That's what it looks like. I think it looks just about as good as the more expensive one and far better than the factory. Is painting the rims to get rid of that garish silver. So I started by popping the hubcap off, then I steel wooled the steel rim, then I used the VHT wheel paint in SP189 graphite. I covered up the lug nuts with some tape, then I took some flexible plastic to cover up the tire and sprayed the rim. Now the rim blends in with the color of the truck as opposed to that garish silver. Is replacing these two-piece lug nuts with these Coyote Accessories 80 K645 BLK. Not only will they be the black that I'm after, if I can get it out of the box, there we go, but they also match. They have this ring right here that holds the hubcap on. But the most important thing is when this aluminum cover comes off, and it will from rotating tires, your lug nut is useless because your wrench doesn't fit it. You have to have a solid steel. So I'm going to take my Ryorbi Impact. Hopefully this is going to be strong enough. Oh yeah. What I'll do is I'll just get out a bunch more and always hand start them. Never use a wrench. And I'm just finishing up the last ones here. Alrighty. And that's held in. Doesn't seem to be quite as tight as when the factory had it, but there they are. I don't think it's coming off. I'm guessing the difference as to why this is a bit loose is this area right here is shorter than this area right here. So that is why I'm getting a little bit of shock. I assume they're going to stay in. It's just that there is a bit of shock. Is installing an old-fashioned, some people call them a chase rail. Some people call them a pre-runner rail, but I had one on my 2007, and to get it to fit, I had to shorten it quite a bit because of the height of the bed rails against the height of the cab. The 2022 is much shorter distance than the 2007, so I chopped a big section out and then welded in a new bottom. And then, of course, because the new Rangers are wider, I had to weld in 6-inch pieces on each side so that I would have the correct width, because the old Cargo Master, it was a universal. You put the sides on, you slid the pipe in, and then cut off what was ever left over, and then there was set screws to lock it in place. And all I did was, way back when, I put those rectangle pieces of metal on to hold my brake and turn signal lights.
Replace that 4x4 emblem with this 4x4 emblem. This is a licensed Ford product. So anyway, that's going to go right there. Get rid of that red X. I just put down some blue painter's tape to give me a guide so I can get the replacement 4x4 emblem exactly as the factory had it. Now I just have to apply heat and peel that off and put the new one on. It only takes about a minute of heat, and that peels off surprisingly easy. I know they said it came off easy, but never believe they. Got a little bit of a tear. We can get that. It's probably beginning to cool off. And back. There. I just got to clean off that dirt line and install the new one. And with a little bit of alcohol and paper towel, there you go. You would never know that it was there. Now you could just leave it off, but I really like that 4x4. I just didn't like the red. I've got my front guide, I got my bottom guide, so that the positioning will be identical to factory. So what I did was I aligned it, put my little tape hinges on, flipped it up, and made sure that everything was clean, peeled the back off, sprayed the back with, well, I don't have Windex, but I got this Easy Clean, same stuff. Sprayed the truck, sprayed that, and now it's just a matter of making sure there's absolutely no bubbles. And then the video that I watched from Decal Mods, they said you should actually leave this tape on for 24 hours. Well, I certainly can. That's not a problem. I've got to drive it this afternoon, but I can put some tape on that and then just go ahead and put some tape on here. And then I'll let it set out in the sun. So it's the next day. I had to drive the truck 40 miles. And we'll see how I did. It's not a full 24 hours like the company wanted, but It's maybe 18. So I either did a good job or I blew it. So here's the grand reveal. Notice how I'm pulling it back over itself. If you ever worked with models and decals, you remember. Oh, gotta get that off too. A little bit of stickum from that. Yep, I'll have to go at that. But anyway, there it is. That's how you replace the red X with the black and gray X as part of this motif for street stealth.
Now for the last step in the Stealth Ranger motif, I wanted to dull down those bright red taillights. I didn't want to use a tint film. I didn't want to buy expensive taillights that cover everything and dim the reflectors as well as the light output out of the rear and the side. So I masked it off, as you see, and I chose Plastidip Smoke because I know it's not as good as dark as the Nightshade. However, it's removable because if I didn't like it, I can just peel it back off, no harm, no foul. So here's the results from the first coat, second coat, third coat, fourth coat, fifth coat, and finally the sixth coat. It wasn't getting any darker after 6, so I called it good.
And the last step in the stealth motif is to dull down that red just a little bit. And I think it kind of did. I still have full view of the lights and the side reflectors, but it has dulled the side down a little bit, which is kind of what I was after. And I do really like this part right here, that the gray going into that, it dulls it down and then it goes into the bright red of the reflector.